Hello again, and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. It's Friday the 29th of July. I'm Andrew Wilson, and this is Scotland at 7. This evening, I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 156 of the illegal Russian war of aggression, and then I also have today's headlines from Scotland and around the world. Then I will introduce our guest for this evening, and together we will look at the Save Loch Lomond campaign. Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, has accused Russia of a petrifying war crime and blamed the Kremlin for the shelling of a prison in the Russian-controlled settlement of Olenivka in Donetsk Oblast, which Russia's defense ministry said killed 40 Ukrainian prisoners of war today. The prison in Olenivka was housing Ukrainian service personnel who had been held there since the fall of Mariupol. At least 5 people have been killed and 7 injured in a strike on a bus stop in the city of Mykolaiv, according to the regional governor Vitaly Kim. Graphic images from the scene show the street littered with bodies. Ukraine has stepped up its campaign to retake Russian-controlled regions in the south by trying to bomb and isolate Russian troops in hard-to-resupply areas. The UK Defence Minister, Ben Wallace, has said that Russian forces in Ukraine are in a very difficult spot, and that Vladimir Putin's strategy is akin to putting his forces through a meat grinder. A Ukrainian court on Friday reduced to 15 years a life sentence that was handed to a Russian soldier in May for the premeditated murder in the country's first war crimes trial. North Macedonia plans to donate an unspecified number of Soviet-era tanks to Ukraine as it seeks to modernise its own military to meet NATO standards, its defence ministry has said. Germany will deliver 16 Biber bridge-layer tanks to Ukrainian forces, the German defence ministry said today. And Belarus has recalled its ambassador to the United Kingdom on Friday in response to what it called hostile and unfriendly actions by London. Residents of Russian-occupied areas in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region have been urged to evacuate. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister, Irina Vereshchuk, said people risk being cut off from power, water, food and medical supplies, heating and communication if they stayed in the area. 5 people were killed and at least 25 injured when Russian missiles struck the hangars of an aviation enterprise in Kropyvnytsky, north of Mykolaiv, on Thursday. At least 2 people were killed in the Donetsk town of Toretsk on Thursday when a 5-story building collapsed after a Russian missile strike. 2 people in the southern seaside town of Koblevo were blown up by a sea mine while swimming despite a ban, said the Mykolaiv regional governor Vitaly Kim. US officials have said that more than 75,000 Russians are estimated to have been either killed or injured during the war. And the UN aid chief said he was hopeful that the first shipment of grain from a Ukrainian Black Sea port could take place as early as today. Martin Griffiths said crucial details for the safe passage of vessels were still being worked out, and the devil was in the details. Keir Starmer's ban on Labour MPs going on picket lines was a fundamental mistake that caused a complete car crash in a week when the party should have been talking about increasing workers' wages, Sam Tarry MP has said after he was sacked from his role as a shadow minister following media appearances from an RMT picket line. Charities have warned that some of the most vulnerable households could miss out on the £400 to help with soaring energy bills this autumn after details were revealed of how all homes in the UK would receive the support. The money, part of an already announced energy bills support scheme, will be paid in 6 monthly instalments of £66 or £67 to about 29 million households. Charities and campaigners raised immediate concerns that more than 2 million prepayment meter customers could have difficulties accessing the support. Customers with older non-smart prepayment meters will not receive the support automatically, instead receiving an energy bill discount voucher each month via text, email or in the post. US consumer credit growth in June accelerated at the fastest rate in 3 years, as households struggle to cope with the rising cost of living. People borrowed an additional £1.8 billion in consumer credit last month, up from a £900 million increase in May, according to the latest Bank of England data. With inflation at a 40-year high of 9.4%, experts said many households were using all forms of credit available to them to pay soaring food and utility bills. The annual growth rate for all consumer credit increased to 6.5% in June, the highest rate since May 2019, while credit card borrowing soared by 12.5%, the highest rate since November 2005. The UK government is in line for a £1 billion payout from its stake in NatWest Group, despite a dip in the bank's second quarter profits and uncertainty over the UK's economic outlook. NatWest revealed today it was poised to issue dividends worth 20.3 a share after reporting strong growth in lending and deposits across the business, thanks in part to rising interest rates that meant it could charge borrowers more for loans and mortgages. Almost half of the dividends, about £1 billion, will be given to the Treasury, which still owns 48% of the bank's shares after the £46 billion state bailout at the height of the 2008 financial crisis. Plans to dispose of radioactive nuclear waste beneath the seabed off the northwest coast of England risk seriously harming marine life, including mammals such as dolphins and whales, experts have warned. Seismic surveys in the Irish Sea near Cumbria get underway on Saturday to explore whether the area is suitable for a proposed facility. In 2019, radioactivity leaked into the soil beneath Sellafield in Cumbria, which also saw a serious leakage in the 1970s and was not built with decommissioning in mind. There are 20 surface facilities that store highly radioactive waste across the UK. About 750,000 cubic metres, that's equivalent to 70% of the volume of Wembley Stadium, is earmarked for geological disposal. The UK Foreign Office has admitted a catalogue of errors over its handling of Britain's exit from Afghanistan, but has shut the door on many Afghans who helped the UK prior to the Taliban takeover last August, saying it will not provide false hope that they will be given the chance to come to the UK. Foreign Office officials say it is difficult to judge whether Afghans who worked on UK-funded civilian schemes, such as the British Council, are truly in danger from the Taliban, saying the evidence is that the threat primarily applies to those who provided security support to the UK. Officials said the slow progress in processing cases this year had been caused by the high number of rejected applications, as well as legal cases challenging UK refusals to provide a right of abode. So far, only 5,000 Afghans have been given permission to come to the UK, in addition to the 15,000 who were evacuated at the time of the fall of Kabul last year. An Israeli soldier shot dead a 16-year-old Palestinian near a road leading to a Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank on Friday, Palestinian officials have said. Witnesses said the incident, east of the city of Ramallah, also involved face-offs in open fields between settlers, at least one of whom was armed, and Palestinians, with some on either side lobbing rocks at each other. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the teenager's killing as an execution. A second Palestinian was shot and wounded in the incident, health officials and witnesses have also said. And proposals for all new buildings to be fitted with climate-friendly alternatives to fossil fuel heating systems have been published. The New Building Heating Standard Part 2 consultation sets out plans that would mean direct emissions heating systems, such as those run on fossil fuels, would no longer be installed in any homes and non-domestic buildings warranted from April 2024. They would be replaced by alternatives such as heat pumps, solar and electric energy. The New Build Heat Standard Part 2 consultation runs for 12 weeks until the 20th of October 2022. Now then, we are lucky enough to be joined this evening by Sam Paton, who is part of the Save Loch Lomond campaign. Sam has been a contributor and host on Broadcasting Scotland and is now working hard as part of a campaign to protect and promote forms of land use that meet the needs of local communities and economies situated within the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park. And we're going to talk to her about the campaign and the Save Loch Lomond group this evening. Sam, how are you keeping?
I'm doing grand, Andrew. How are you? It's nice to see you
Um, uh,
again and to be on the show.
well, and you too, Sam. It's lovely to see you, and thank you very much for joining us, taking time to join us on Broadcasting Scotland this evening. Now, this evening we're going to talk to you about the Save Loch Lomond campaign, and the current status, as I understand it, is that under current proposals, a development would see the creation of a 60-bed hotel, 127 self-catering lodges, a water park, a monorail, restaurants, and a retail area. However,
Yeah.
concerns have been raised over the scale and impact of the project on the land. Lomond Banks, who are the company behind the project, has said it's keen to engage with all parties on the proposals. But of course, almost 3 years ago, Flamingo Land formally withdrew its planning application for a £30 million tourist resort on the shores of Loch Lomond. So that, I think, in a very small nutshell, is the current status. However, I think it's best to try and understand what the Save Loch Lomond campaign is all about. Firstly, in terms of the campaign, how would you describe your campaign, and what is the campaign trying to achieve?
Right. Save Loch Lomond was started way back in 2018. It is a community-led campaign. Um, myself and Alana Mora were the two unfortunates that ended up just setting up all the media and kind of spearheading it. But however, it's a community-led campaign, and our aim was to get the word out there about Loch Lomond because we believe, as the community believes, Loch Lomond just does not belong to the community who live on its banks, but it belongs to everybody who has visited Loch Lomond, which is around the globe. Loch Lomond is one of these special places that has it kind of hold a part of your heart once you've been. So we thought it was important that everybody was aware of what was happening at Loch Lomond and about this development. And the reason we started the campaign was because when we were talking to people locally, people didn't actually know who actually going to be living in the vicinity of this development. They weren't aware of what was happening. Now, it is a major development, so part of the rules in planning of a major development, there is certain rules you've got to go by, adhere to, which are legal in terms of consultations. And what happened was they done the minimum proposals of the consultation, so not much was done to engage with the public and the local residents. And once the people found out what was happening, they were appalled. And there's lots of reasons why people are appalled. It's not just the size and the scale of the development, it's to do with the impact of the local community, it's to do with the wildlife, the environmental impact, it's to do with the infrastructure, it's to do with how the whole thing has been conducted up until this point. The community has been very much cut out of it, all the different processes. And this is one way that we can have a voice and having the support of the world, the wider community of the world to help us as well. Because the thing is, if any development that goes ahead at Loch Lomond, we're not anti-development. What we're saying is it needs to be something in keeping with the area and something that the locals are going to be able to live with. Because that's the thing, when we see all these developments happening, there's not much consideration given to the locals who are going to be living with it. And there's never much consideration of how future generations are going to be living with these developments. And this is what we've been campaigning about, is wanting to have these discussions and have these meetings and things with the community. But unfortunately, they can't happen for legal reasons.
Thanks, Sam. That's a great introduction, a great primer to the beginning of our conversation this evening. Thank you. So let's look at it in a little bit of detail. You were telling us that the
Hmm.
campaign started in 2018, and so let's look at the history of this site and this developer. What happened back in 2018?
Well, basically, what happened when we get involved, we were in the final days of being able to put forward an objection to this. And what we done was we started walking the streets, talking to people, the whole community get involved. People who were already aware of it were walking the streets. Within ourselves, we started funding flyers. We get local businesses involved to help us print T-shirts and things to just get the word out there of what was happening. And one of the things is that keeps getting promoted by Flamingo Land. The thing is, it's quite confusing because Flamingo Land are going by, with this application, Flamingo Land has gone by the name Flamingo Land, Iconic Leisure, and now Lomond Banks. So it's quite confusing to who's behind this, but it's actually Flamingo Land and Scottish Enterprise. So we went round and we spoke to all the local residents, communities, and people around the world. We done interviews. As you know, we've been on broadcast in Scotland before, and we just spoke to so many different people. And what happened was, as people were finding out, they were trying to object. The system for the planning department, the servers kept crashing, and because they did not expect that amount of objections. So what they had to do was, what they've done again is extend the date for objections to allow everything to catch up and allow people to object. So it ended up, it was a very long campaign. In order to make things easier, the Scottish Greens came up with a plan with a portal site which logs individual objections. It's not a petition, it logs individual objections. And so that took the pressure away from the servers of the national park. And they're doing that again just now, so it makes it easier for people to log their objections, because a lot of people were complaining, like the last time, as they're complaining just now, the servers keep crashing and they can't log their objection. So at the moment we are in the waiting game because it's a live planning application. So it's just a waiting game at the moment, but I am happy to talk about everything behind the scenes of Save Loch Lomond and the locals and their feelings on this development.
Well, thanks, Sam. Well, that's a good point. You live locally, and the campaign is a very much a campaign by local people. So, what are local people saying about this development now that now that a fresh planning application is out for consultation?
The fact that this is the second application, there's not much changes in this application. There's a few tweaks, but not many. It's pretty much the same application as before. The main difference is the last time the Scottish Enterprise was going to be selling the land onto Flamingo Land. Now, this land is currently publicly owned. It was bought a way back in, I'll just check my dates here, I've got them all written down, I came prepared. It was bought in 1989 and another patch of land was bought in 1995. Now, the total cost of the bits of land from private developments, which were bought by using the local taxpayers' money, was just under £3 million. So if you think back, that's a lot of money. And a way back originally, Scottish Enterprise were talking about entering a deal where they were selling the land for less than £250,000, and that included subsidies and grants. So this time round they have said they're going to lease the land, so it's still within public ownership, but however they're still going to be getting grants and subsidies. This is a private company, basically getting to profit on public land and a public asset. And the thing is with this development, and the one thing is, going back to your question, what concerns the locals, is this is the last piece of public land and the south shore of Loch Lomond that can be accessed using public transport. So if you're going to Balloch on the train, that is the bit of loch that you get to access. Now, the loch is many miles, it's huge. To get to any other spot of Loch Lomond, you need a car. You need to be able to drive. Or you need to be really fit in cycling or walking. And if you've got mobility issues, or that's not so easy. So this bit is very important. It is extremely important. And during COVID, we've seen how important this was for public access, because for people's mental health, getting out into the fresh air, you know, that was needed. That was so needed. And so many people have got so many memories, as I said before. So that's one aspect. That's the last piece of public land. Now, if this development is allowed to go ahead, we lose that. Yes, Flamingo Land keeps saying they would give us access, but we don't know what form of access. We don't know if there'll be time scales, we don't know, but we do know there's going to be some sort of complex, you know, if you look at the plans of Flamingo Land, and anybody can look at them, pop onto the website for the planning department in the national park. I'll put the links on social media for you. Go and have a look. It's going to be a complex, so it's not going to be that easy to navigate to these public, you know, the beach, the bay. Now, the bay at this bit of land is very important to the locals and anybody else. This particular bay has historically been used for teaching the youngsters on how to swim. It was always classified as a safe point at the loch. That's no longer safe because, unfortunately, before COVID, when it was the Scottish Swim, they dredged that bay and they created an undercurrent. So that area is already now being destroyed, and it can't be fixed because the undercurrent is too strong. They can't fill it in, they've tried. So to further destroy this bay would just be unspeakable. You know, it's important. And then you've got down the side of the riverside, you've got boat clubs there who are all local people who pay for rental for their moorings for their boats to be able to sail round the loch. In the past, the owner of Flamingo Land was quite horrible in his wording and in particular one statement to Jackie Bailey, and I'll leave that for Jackie Bailey to explain, which she has done on her social media, because it was her that received the email about what he thought of the locals in these boat clubs. Scottish Enterprise have now offered the local boat clubs again a long-term lease, but the thing is, that land written into the law for the area, that land in perpetuity will always belong to the local people and should never pay rent. But Scottish Enterprise is trying to get them into a lease deal. So there's a lot of legal stuff going on behind the scenes, and that's and this has all came about because of this development. Now, how we got to this stage, nobody really knows, and that's part of the thing that's getting annoying the residents, because it was a panel of unknown people who picked Flamingo Land as the preferred bidder. Basically, companies were invited to put in their plans, their ideas, and this panel, had some local councillors, had Scottish Enterprise, and some members of the national park. We don't know who they are. They picked Flamingo Land. Why did they pick Flamingo Land? We don't know. Now, this land belongs to the public, and they've made this decision on the behalf of the public without asking the public. We don't even know who the other applicants were. We don't know. So again, the public's been, the local residents, the public has been shut out of this whole process. And considering it's the national park, Scotland's first national park, this should not be happening. And considering it's a climate crisis as well now, you know, with the second application coming in, the first application was bad enough with environmental impact. The second application's not really changed. We've got an environment, you know, we've got a climate crisis. So yeah, there's a lot of things. So another thing that the locals are really concerned about is the road infrastructure. Now, Andrew, I don't know, do you know Loch Lomond? Have you been down to Loch Lomond at all?
Oh yes, many times.
Have you been down and been caught in the car park, which is also known as the A82?
I've driven up the 82 many, many times. Sometimes stopping at Balloch, but usually travelling on and travelling into Argyll. But yes, I know the road,
Right,
and I know it can get very busy sometimes.
yeah. Well, the thing is what happens is the road becomes gridlocked, and that affects the local communities, including where I stay. And it's quite common for us when it's really busy. We can't get out. We can't do anything. Now, I remember going back to my very first interview with Broadcasting Scotland. I was to drive to Glasgow. I had to phone poor Linda and tell her I was going to be, I think it was 30 or 40 minutes late because of I couldn't get out my village. And that was after tea time, and it was during the summer and things like that. So this is the things we've got to live with. The locals have kind of adapted to that in terms of shopping and working and things, but Flamingo Land are not taking this seriously into consideration. The other thing we've got to we're concerned with a lot of because the community is concerned with, we don't have a local accident and emergency. Our local accident and emergency is 20 mile away across a bridge. So in order to get to that accident and emergency, we've got to go up the A82, go over Erskine Bridge, and then drive through Paisley. Now, that sounds fine if you've got multiple roads that you can go on. But as we all know, the way Scotland is designed, it doesn't always work like that. We don't have that sort of geography in Scotland that, you know, you can have multiple road networks. We've got one road in and one road out. That A82 becomes blocked. You see ambulances struggling, fire engines struggling, Coast Guard, police. You see the lot struggle. They can't get by. Sometimes they literally can't get by, and other times the people manage to. It depends on the road and where it is in the middle of the road. Sometimes the cars can separate and let them by, but sometimes they can't. And if you've got a gridlock situation with visitors going to Loch Lomond or coming away from Loch Lomond, and then you have an accident on top of that, trust me, it's not a nice situation to be living in. I live with the A82 just literally there, and on the summer I dread it because you listen to sirens constantly, and the ambulance helicopter and Coast Guard go right over my house, and the police helicopter. And the thing is, it's like you just look at it and you just go, oh my God, please, I hope whoever it is safe, especially if, because you know it's either the A82 or the Loch, and you can hear the traffic sit and stand still, and it's horrible. It's horrible. So the locals, we feel that side of it as well. And the thing is, so there's a lot of factors behind this. It's not just about NIMBYism. It's not about we're anti-development. We've been shut out. Our concerns have not been taken seriously. Our lives have not been taken seriously. The thing is we don't have the infrastructure for something like that. And the other thing is about Balloch. For folk that go to Balloch on a sunny day, especially public transport, we have a major problem for antisocial behaviour. And the antisocial behaviour is just absolutely appalling during the summer months. And it ends up, it can affect our public transport, and our trains end up being cancelled because of it. So how Flamingo Land, part of their application is they're going to encourage people to go by train rather than by car. But how that's going to pan out, when we already have problems there in terms of the public transport system. And that's nothing. That's not a criticism of how the public transport system works. That's a criticism of antisocial behaviour and what we've got to deal with. Living locally to something that is highly popular. And the thing is, we love people coming to visit here. We love it. We love seeing people. We love going out and talking to them. And it's just, we've had to adapt our lives around the busy summer periods in the summer season. But however, that would just add a nightmare scenario, and a nightmare scenario. And what we've said is we wouldn't mind some sort of development at that part of the land. We're not anti that. We would actually quite enjoy something because we know we need facilities. We know we need something. The locals have spoken about that. We've had public meetings about it. The problem is this is not the right sort of development. And the locals have got some fabulous ideas of things that they would like to see and get involved in. And it's more inclined with our culture, working with our community, you know, and we've even spoke to tourists from abroad asking them, how would you feel? You know, show them the plans. And they're like, no, that is just, we wouldn't come back. You know,
Of course. Yeah, I understand. No, that's a great explanation of the way in which local people have reacted and are feeling about this proposed development. Now, when you were talking there, you mentioned the local MSP. What is Ms. Bailey saying about this proposed development?
well, she recently put a survey out. We published the findings of it. Even
I'm sorry, we seem to have lost Sam for a moment there. If you'll bear with us for a moment, we'll see if we can get her reconnected. Here she is. Sam, can you hear me? Oh, I think we have connection problems to Balak at the moment. Sam and we will persist in attempting to reconnect her. We'll just see if we can get that going again, and then we can continue the conversation. Because I'm interested to hear what is happening from Jackie Bailey, the local MSP, also from other MSPs who've been commenting on this. Sam mentioned there that the Green Party have been assisting, so I'm interested to hear from her what both the local MSP and others have been doing. I'm also interested to. She's coming back now. I'm also interested to hear what other organisations have been saying with regard to this repeated application, and local businesses too. I'm also minded that Sam has mentioned the National Park Authority and the local council. There are a number of, and also she's mentioned Scottish Enterprise. So there are a number of government and local government agencies involved in this, and I'm interested to learn how that's working. I'm also interested to learn what's going to happen next in the campaign by the Save Loch Lomond organisation. And also, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to discuss with Sam a little bit more about the Save Loch Lomond group. Sam, are you back with us now? Nope. Oh, that's we can see that Sam is persisting in her attempts to reconnect, which I hope she's able to do, because there's a great deal that we're going to discuss, or I was hoping to discuss, with regard to this important planning application and the processes that have been attached to the consultation for the planning application, and what it is that might happen next, and what it is that the local community and those in the Save Loch Lomond campaign are hoping is the outcome from the consultation, especially in light of the fact that this is the second time that the developer has put forward a planning application for this site on the south shore of Loch Lomond. Sam, I'm sure, is persisting in the background in an attempt to reconnect, and I'm hoping that she is able to reconnect with us in the very, very near future. She was, when we were discussing this, I think it's fair to say that she was working up, and we were getting into the guts of the issues that have been affecting local people in that part of Western Bartonshire, and around Loch Lomond side, and their concerns about the infrastructure, their concerns about the provision of services, and their concern about the ability of the community and that infrastructure to cope with the increased footfall and vehicle numbers that would inevitably result from a development like this on the shore of Loch Lomond. So I think there's a great deal we are going to do that I hope we'll be able to talk about. And that's because we've been having such a great conversation so far. I can tell that Sam is still trying to reconnect in the background. So we'll hope that she's join us in a moment.
Thank you.
She can't be far away. Sam, can you hear me?
Hey, sorry about that.
Don't worry, it's not a problem. It's all right. We thank you for
Somebody
persisting
decided
and
to
thank
call me and no,
Ah,
the someone decided to call me and it just totally cut everything off. Oh,
of
people.
course.
Yeah, so where
Although,
were we, Andrew?
so I had just asked you what it was that your local MSP has been saying or doing, and you were just about to tell us that she had run a public poll, or she'd done a consultation, a survey. What's been happening?
Well, the survey was quite interesting. I think it was well over 50% that are against the development. But one of the things that came up, which was very interesting, which was the bit I found really most interesting, which I really read into, was the ones that even are for the development have concerns. So even people, and that's what we found out when we were talking to people when we were out in the streets, before COVID, and even today when you're talking to people and things, and they think, oh, but the jobs and this will be, but they still have concerns, and the concerns are the road infrastructure and how the area was going to cope, and how the area is going to cope with getting people for emergency medical attention when needed.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of what Ms. Bailey has been saying or doing, I had a quick look at her website this afternoon, where she comments on this planning application. Now, it may be the wording, but I don't know. But it was something jumped out of the page to me. It says on our website at the moment, and I quote: "Ms. Bailey believes that it is imperative that Lomond Banks, the applicant for the planning application, it is imperative that Lomond Banks needs to engage more with local businesses before planning permission is granted. Local firms must be involved in the construction phase and the ongoing supply chain." Now, it may just be the way in which that's been written, but that sounds to me like she expects planning permission to be granted, which struck me as
Yeah,
curious.
yeah,
Do
it
you know
is, isn't
do
it?
you know
It's
why
quite
she might be so
strange.
certain about that?
Yeah, it's quite strange, isn't it? Because Miss Bailey was very much part of the Save Loch Lomond campaign and assisting us before, and was very much, part of the public meetings and everything when she came along, and she has spoken to the locals. So I think at the moment, I can't answer on behalf of Miss Bailey, but it may be a possibility that at the moment she's sitting on the fence and waiting to see which way the wind blows in terms of the public opinion. But however, time will tell how that one will turn out. But because I know at the moment the objections are fairly racking up, and whether people are objecting through the portal or objecting through the Scottish Greens portal, the objections are racking up. So I think Miss Bailey might end up finding herself that she's going to have to come off that fence pretty quickly.
Well, that's the thing. It's quite a long article on our website. It also says that she, meaning Miss Bailey, is also urging Lomond Banks to guarantee that they will recruit locally and provide sustainable, well-paid positions if they are granted planning permission for the development. So the word "if" is in there this time rather than the previous paragraph. However, you've already mentioned the aspect of this that relates to supposedly creating local employment. Now, at the moment, across Scotland, so far as I'm aware, and you can tell me if Balloch is different. But at the moment, most leisure or businesses, hotels and pubs and restaurants are really struggling to get staff after Brexit and after the pandemic. So, is there some deep well of unemployed folks only in Balloch who are waiting for this opportunity to step into the leisure industry, into the hotel business, to work at Flamingo Land?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, Andrew? You would think, going by this application, that people are just sitting back waiting to be employed by Flamingo Land, and it's going to be the best job ever, and it's going to be the best career ever, and this is what they are waiting for, their dream job. I don't think so. However, what I can tell you is, I mean, yes, this time they've committed to the living wage, but they still haven't addressed the fact it's going to be seasonal jobs, 0-hour contracts, which was concerns as well we spoke about. And at a previous council meeting that I was at with them, they couldn't deny these things. So the jobs are very much, they keep getting kind of going on about the jobs, but they can't guarantee the jobs are going to be local because they are building staff accommodation. So that tells you something. The jobs are not going to be local. And, you know, it's one of those ones that's a bit disingenuous to keep harping on about the jobs, which is what they're using as a push to try and bend the arms of the locals. It's all about the jobs. But the thing is, in this area, we have a high tourist industry, hospitality industry, as it is, and they are struggling to get staff. They are struggling to get staff. Flamingo Land's not any different. The thing is, at the moment, any staff member who's employed in the hospitality industry can pick where they want to go. They're not going to sit back and think, "Oh, I'm going to get a job at Flamingo Land. Oh, it's amazing." It's not going to happen. You know, they're not the type of
Right.
employer going by their track record down in Yorkshire that people are going to be going, "Yeah."
No, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Now, I think that's enough talking about Jackie Baillie. You've mentioned the Greens already, so I was interested to learn a little bit more about what other politicians, in addition to Ms. Baillie, what are other politicians doing or saying with regard to this application and with regard to the Save Loch Lomond campaign?
Actually, at the moment, they're all very quiet. They're all very quiet. Which is what happened the last time until they were pushed, until there was more noise created. At the moment, they're still all very quiet. Interestingly enough, the first round with the application, it was very much a cross-party campaign. And the thing was, it was one of these campaigns parties. But the Greens are the only ones that have been 100% behind it. The thing that surprised me quite a lot was the local MSP for the Tories came along to one of our panels and one of our public meetings, and he was saying that he didn't agree with it and so forth, Maurice Corrie. But I don't think he actually understood what was happening. I've met Maurice a few times, and he kind of bumbled on a bit, which was quite interesting. So the thing is the other parties are being extremely quiet right now. The only ones that are really speaking out is the Scottish Greens. And obviously, like any other, like before, if any other politician from any other party wants to talk to us and start talking to the local community, give us a shout. At the end of the day, this is not about politics and what your political beliefs are. This is about an asset in Scotland which is worth, one, financially, it's worth a lot of money, but two, in other aspects, ethics, morality, it's you can't put a price on it. Loch Lomond means so much to people, And, and then when it comes to other aspects of the climate crisis, it's something that needs to be, if it's going to be developed, it needs to be done in a safe, sustainable way that's not going to affect the environment. It's not going to cause more contribution towards the climate crisis, and it's going to stand the time. The time of ages, because the problem fails. What happens if that fails and that land has been dug up? Now, nature has reclaimed that land, and it is a beautiful, beautiful part of the loch. So, yeah, if this doesn't work, it's the public taxpayer that's going to have to foot the bill to sort it out. It's us that's going to have to deal, or what are they going to do? Do a quick deal with Flamingo Land so they buy it on the cheap and then they can sell it off? Now, it's Loch Lomond, it's worth millions. This bit of land is worth millions. So it's about protecting our heritage and our assets for future generations. I mean, can you imagine putting a water theme park on the banks of Loch Lomond and handing that, over to the next generation and saying, there you go, good luck. It's
Completely,
tasteless.
Sam. No.
It's
no, thank you.
tasteless.
We get that. We get that point. I was going to ask you also. We've been talking about what politicians have been saying. I was going to ask you what other organisations like Ramblers Scotland and the Scottish Woodland Trust have been saying in response to this latest planning application.
They all have concerns. Which, the Ramblers have got concerns about the freedom of access for the walks and people walking because of the Three Loch walk that goes through there. The Woodland Trust is concerned because there's ancient woodland. Yes, Flamingo Land says they're not going to touch that bit of woodland, but that doesn't mean to say it's safe because it can be touched at a later date. And the thing is with ancient woodland, it's got very much quite a lot of different species of animals and things like that. Also, as well, even people, the anglers and things like that, that fish on the bank, the river which comes off the Loch Lomond, are concerned because Scotland is home to a species of fish. The Powan, the Loch Lomond, and I think there's another loch as well that's got it. And so that's quite special. So the fishermen are concerned about how this is going to affect. Every organisation has some sort of concern. Whether it's the water runoff, the effect of the environment in terms of the nature, the tree, woodland, the species of animals, the species of fauna as well, and flora. Also, there's even concerns about the transport. There's concerns about the antisocial behaviour, which we spoke about before. The only one we've not heard from in terms of raise a concern is the MOD, because that part of Malachy nuclear convoy goes through, and that's the only one we've not heard from as to what their opinion would be on the development, because it's not just the fact of, oh yeah, we're going to have this, it's the building of the development and the destruction and the chaos that's going to cause as well, to local businesses and access to homes, businesses and whatever. And so actually developing the development is going to cause problems, I would imagine, to the MOD, but they've been very quiet about that, or if they're doing that, they'll be doing that behind the scenes if they're having any objections.
Now that's a good point, Sam. There's two things in that I was going to ask you about. Firstly, we've been talking about what politicians have been saying. We've been talking about what the Save Loch Lomond campaign has been talking about. We've been also mentioning. We also spoke about what other campaigning organisations like Ramblers Scotland and the Scottish Woodland Trust have been saying. What have existing local businesses in Balloch have been saying? I'm thinking of, for example, the Loch Lomond Association, which I think represents existing businesses there.
Well, they're split. A lot of the organisations are actually for it within the local because they believe it's going to they believe that it's going to help the local businesses. Now, unsurprisingly, or surprisingly, I should say, I picked the wrong word there. The Friends of Loch Lomond are actually backing it. Now, the Friends of Loch Lomond were originally started to oppose another development on the same site a few decades ago before Lomond Shores. Lomond Shores was the kind of middle ground. So it's quite surprising that the ones of Friends of Loch Lomond are actually for this. So there's a bit of mix because some businesses believe that they're going to get runoff business out of this. And then there's other businesses who believe they're not going to get anything because it's a complex style development. And if you know anything about complex style developments, if you look at them, I mean, you see them all the time. You travel up and down the UK, go to England and the holiday parks and things like that, and you see them. Nobody needs to leave. Once you're in your accommodation, you've pretty much got everything there. You've got your shops, you've got your restaurants, you've got your facilities, you've got your entertainment, and that's what that's going to be. So, and then you see the local town or villages, they're ghost towns, there's nothing, there's, boarded up windows where businesses used to be and so forth. So there is some businesses who have that concern. And then you've got the businesses who seem to think they'll get some sort of runoff because Flamingo Land have promised them. Businesses who have concern are like your independent, self-employed people.
Yep. No, thank you. I understand that. Now, you mentioned Lomond Shores there a moment ago, and it struck me that the position of it struck me that Lomond Shores might be an interesting way of looking at this latest planning application by Flamingo Land. The Lomond Shores development obviously was a significant construction project. It wasn't a complex, but it's a large building, and is it perceived by you were saying also that the Save Loch Lomond campaign is not anti-development per se; it's just anti-developments that are inappropriate in the setting and in the location. So, is the Lomond Shores shopping outlet? Does the local community find that has brought jobs? Did it cause huge problems with transport? And is it something that indicates that local people are not against all planning applications? It's just ones that are inappropriate in the setting.
Yeah. The thing is with Lomond Shores, that's a failing project. Lomond Shores is also partially owned by Scottish Enterprise. They're the partners in that. And the problem with Lomond Shores is, as much as it looks wonderful and it has millions of visitors every year, people don't spend money. They don't go there to do retail. They go there to sit, relax, and look at the scenery and have a walk. Now, I worked on the market for many years down at Lomond Shores. Trust me, you could see coach loads of people coming in and not go anywhere near a shop or a market stall. They were interested about taking photographs of the Ben. Yes, Lomond Shores has a Ben. So, and on a clear day, the view is amazing. On a rainy day, maybe not so much because you can't really see it with the rain. But you know it's there. You're somewhere behind the rain and the clouds, but you know it's there. Yes. But however, people don't spend money to shop. So Lomond Shores, it's a failed project, and they've tried so many times to revamp Lomond Shores. They've tried things with Lomond Shores. As locals, we've seen local people, local businesses trying to set up or move their business into the complex of Lomond Shores, and they don't last. The rents are so high, the rates are so high, and the stipulations of their terms and conditions are so strict. They fail. They used to have just before COVID, because they thought Flamingo Land were going to get the application, so many businesses in there were given their notice to quit, and they had to move on and find other premises. So now they've had to find other businesses to fill up the units. So Lomond Shores is not, I mean, as much as it's got all the visitors, which it does, and it's great, walkways and everything are beautiful, and it's a great place to visit, it's not making money. And the problem is with Flamingo Land, that'll be there to prop up. That's your retail part and your restaurant part. That's all going to be incorporated into the Flamingo Land. And now, if you've been there, as so many other, you know the vast amount of car parks at Lomond Shores. Now they get used, and they especially during summer or if there's a big event on. They are going to lose some of their car parks to the development of Flamingo Land. Can you imagine the impact to the local community if there's an event?
Yes, no, that makes sense, Sam. Thank you. Now then, I'm keeping one eye on the clock here, so I was going to ask you, can you tell me in no more than a minute what happens next in the Save Loch Lomond campaign?
What happens now is we are trying to encourage people, sorry I keep fidgeting, trying to encourage people to all put in their application, their objection. You can do it, there's many ways. You can do it by the Scottish Greens portal, you can go onto the Loch Lomond and Trossachs website and do it that way, or you can email in. I will post the details on social media for you. The other thing that we've started doing that we want to do is people to give their reasons of why they don't want Flamingo Land. So it could be a video, it could be a wee blog thing, and share it with us and we'll share that out. Because it's very important that people's voices are heard. And it doesn't matter if you are living here or you travel here or you come here on holiday, every opinion counts. And if you are abroad and you're not able to legally object, still send us the blog, still send us the wee video or whatever you want to do, because it matters. Your opinion counts as far as I'm concerned, and every voice counts as to what happens. And that's where we need reform in our planning, how we deal with planning applications. We really need to relook at how we deal with these things, and change it and make it so it's more to the public and the residents in an area, rather than just some people sitting behind a desk and making the decisions and we don't know who they are.
Great, Sam. Thank you. That's a great summing up of what's going to happen next in the Save Loch Lomond campaign, because that, I'm afraid to say, is all that we have time for this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland relies on the support of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. Please help us to continue to make these programmes. If you would like to support us, then please subscribe or donate to Broadcasting Scotland. You will find the link to do that on the screen now. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras or in any other way, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. You can find us on Twitter at BroadcastScot, and you can find us on Facebook by searching for Broadcasting Scotland. Meantime, we will be back at 12 noon on Sunday with the next episode of The Full Scottish, so please tune in and join us again then. And that's the way it is at very nearly Scotland at 8. Thank you to everyone who's been watching this evening, and a very special thanks to our very special guest, Sam Paton. If you're a member of the House of Stuart or otherwise a Jacobite, the 29th of July is a big day. In 1548, the French fleet rescued Mary Queen of Scots from Dumbarton and returned her to France. In 1565, she married her cousin Lord Darnley on the 29th of July, and on the 29th of July 1567, the one-year-old Charles James was crowned King James VI of Scotland in a ceremony at the Church of the Holyrood close to Stirling Castle, at which John Knox preached the sermon. So I'll away and study a little bit more of Scottish history over the weekend. I hope you have a very peaceful weekend and can join us here again on Broadcasting Scotland very soon. Bye-bye.